Welcome to the Conflict Mediation Training Session. Conflict is a natural part of life. It takes place in every important relationship that we have. Conflict will certainly occur in the residence hall or apartment environment. Roommates will feud, neighbors will clash, and residents of the floor may find conflicts both with you and other residence hall staff members. It's important to remember that conflict mediation is a skill. How you address these conflict situations will have a direct impact on a person's satisfaction with his or her experience living in the residence halls. It is important that you know the most effective role that you can play and when it is best for you to step aside and serve as a referral agent. This module has been designed to assist you in better understanding your role as a student staff member. The learning outcomes include student staff will be able to facilitate difficult conversations among roommates. Student staff will be able to identify issues roommates have encountered with each other in an unbiased manner. Student staff will be able to focus on providing solutions or accommodations with roommates. Student staff will be able to co-create a plan with roommates to ensure the boundaries are respected. Student staff will be able to develop strategies to keep mediation process simple and short. Too many meetings just prolong the pain and disagreements between residents. Student staff will be able to act impartial, but not uninvolved. What is conflict? Conflict is a condition that exists anytime two or more people disagree over an issue or situation. It is a natural part of any team or relationship. It can be healthy and unhealthy for the relationship depending on how it is handled. When conflict is handled constructively, it promotes growth and problem solving. There are 5 types of conflict. Man versus self. The conflict takes place within the mind of the main character and often involves the character making a decision between right and wrong or other mixed emotions. Man versus man, the most common form of external conflict, is also known as interpersonal conflict. Man versus society. External conflict occurs when someone is placed at odds with a government or cultural tradition. Man versus nature. Nature is indifferent to humanity. For example, the open boat theory. The sea can cause shipwrecks easily and without regard for humanity. Man versus supernature, struggling against a god or gods. There are 5 different conflict styles. The avoiding style, solving the problem by denying its existence or maintaining the status quo. Pros, does not escalate the conflict and postpones difficulty. Cons, unaddressed problems and unsolved problems. Accommodating style, playing down differences and creating surface harmony. Pros, minimizes injury when we are outmatched and the relationship's maintained. Cons, breeds resentment and exploits the weak. Competing style, authoritarian approach. One party is essentially competing with the other party. Pros, it's goal-oriented and quick. Cons, may breed hostility. Compromising, when each party gives up something or exchanges one thing for another. Pros, useful in complex issues without simple solutions. And all parties are equal in power. Cons, no one is ever really satisfied. Less than optimal solutions get implemented. And the last style is collaborating. Problems are solved in ways in which an optimum result is provided for all involved. Both sides get what they want and negative feelings are minimized. Pros, creates mutual trust, maintains positive relationships, and builds commitments. Cons, time-consuming and energy-consuming. Now we learned about the different types and styles of conflict, so what are we going to do when we are a mediator in a conflict? First, let's see what is the definition of conflict mediation and why it is important. Technically, mediation is defined as a process in which individuals seek to talk through their differences with the help of a neutral third party and reach a mutually agreed upon resolution. Mediation can be superior to other conflict resolution methods because the individuals and the disputants create their own solutions and consequently have more investment in the resolution. A true mediation allows each side to share their perspective, listen to the other perspective, engage in a dialogue, respect the rights and thoughts of others, and brainstorm possible solutions before arriving at a resolution. Mediation is a healthy way to share concerns and helps people learn how to resolve conflict in a positive manner. Why is it important? Mediation is often used approach by resident assistants, especially in resolving roommate conflicts. It can be a satisfying, fulfilling way to reach resolution on some very sticky matters. It can help the individuals involved become better communicators and be more prepared to handle conflict in the future. It can also help restore a healthy living and learning community. Here's a video that may help you understand the importance of conflict mediation.
We are going to be talking about conflict and mediation in this session. This involves both roommate mediation to help your residents and peer conflict to help you and your team. First, we will go over roommate mediations. Roommate mediations can be tricky. It involves working with multiple humans who may or may not be rational, possibly come from very different ways of living or walks of life, and is a situation where the roommates are probably already agitated. On top of that, the roommates may or may not be bought into the process for a plethora of reasons. We are here to help you navigate these tricky situations and set you up for success. Here, we'll talk about what happens in the pre-meeting. It is said that there are 3 sides to every story, each side and then the truth. This is true in this situation as well. Hear out both sides of the situation intentionally prior to the meeting separately. Validate their experiences and feelings when you talk to them. Make sure to also set expectations that there will probably need to be concessions, as no one is the perfect roommate, and they are probably doing things that annoy the other person. When it's time to have the meeting, be sure to have it in a neutral place if it's gotten contentious. If this is just a chat about the roommate agreement, feel free to do it in their room. Make sure that everyone is seated at an equal height, as someone towering over someone, even if unintentional, can have a negative effect on the situation. Have the students use I statements. Have the students share their experiences as roommates one at a time, and be sure to make sure they are setting realistic expectations. Refer to and alter the roommate agreement as needed. This should already be in place, but one may be needed to craft it if that isn't the case. Set future expectations in the roommate agreement, including communication. For the post-meeting, what you'll need to do is follow up with the residents individually around a week after the meeting to see how things are going. If things aren't going well, encourage them to talk to them about how to communicate that to each other. If things are going well, your job is done, for now. Now we are going to talk about peer or staff conflict and how to navigate this tricky situation. Here are some things you should know to normalize what you will most likely feel. It will most likely be both awkward and difficult. This is natural, but not a good reason not to engage in this. This is also a good life skill to have, both for your personal and professional life. Now we'll talk about what to do when the conflict arises. Please talk to the other person directly and do not gossip. It's fine to ask for advice, but as a fellow staff member who may be giving the advice, please direct them back to the directly addressing the situation. Venting and or gossiping with your staff can make the situation worse. Choose to either do something about it or let it go, as difficult as that may be. Use I statements when talking with the other person. Come to them in the context of caring and wanting things to work out. Explain the situation using those I statements and try to come in with a solution knowing that the other person may have some ideas of their own. Also know that there is a chance you could be doing some not so great things, so be prepared to possibly hear something about that. Once the situation has been talked out and there is a solution in place, schedule a time to check in again to see how things are going. This should be about a week or 2 later. Sometimes this is missed, but this is a crucial step. Lastly, hug it out, figuratively or literally, which means that you should try and leave them on the best terms. The scheduled time for a follow-up is now here, so here are some things to talk and think about. How are things going? Be sure to be honest, yet considerate. Make sure things are well and make adjustments. They may not be going well, so be sure to talk about how to further adjust. This is about your relationship with the other person, the ability to work with that person and team dynamics, so please keep that in mind. Minimally, you need to be able to work effectively with that person and to keep teamwork high. In the end, here are some key takeaways for all times of conflict and mediation situations. Communicate clearly. Much of the trouble in these situations come down to lack of clear communication. Address conflicts. It's important to address conflicts or to truly let them go. Gossiping and letting it fester is not the correct way to go about the situation. Don't gossip. This can be very divisive to a floor or staff. You can talk it through, but take it to the source. Your supervisor is a great resource to help guide you. Individuals have differing opinions. One of the things you can count on is that you'll interact with people who are different than you. So that means that people have different lived experiences and personalities. Due to that, people prefer to do things differently. So know that conflict is normal, but it doesn't need to be detrimental. Make concessions where possible. You'll need to put yourself in the other person's shoes and also know that you may not completely understand their reasoning. With that, know that you'll most likely need to make concessions where you can. Again, talk to your supervisor if you need assistance. Remember that this is the best course of action for you, your residents, and your team. We want this to be a successful year, and now we have given you the tools to do so.
Here are some sample ground rules for mediation. Take some time and read through them. Are you still reading? You should be. This is an example of the roommate agreement for both apartments and halls. It's critical that each roommate fill out and participate in this process. One of the most important things to remember during the conflict mediation is to stay unbiased. For mediators to maintain an unbiased perspective, especially in the heat of mediation, is challenging. Biases stem from values developed by connections to culture, identity, race, ethnicity, territory, and religious beliefs. Mediation is a formalized and structured process in which a neutral third party assists the people in conflict to air out their disputes, develop a list of issues to resolve, and generate and test possible solutions, and engage in non-directed negotiation of a settlement that all people involved are satisfied with. As a resident assistant, your familiarity with the people and/or the dispute may lead one, both, or all people to conclude that you are not neutral. Perhaps they fear you prefer one party over another, or clearly favor a certain outcome. This concern would cause some people to feel very uncomfortable with you providing assistance. Remind yourself that any hint of perceived partiality to one side undermines your trust and rapport with the other, and ultimately your ability to effectively implement your role. Third-party impartiality is a core building block of successful conflict resolution. And don't forget to call your supervisor for backup when you confront the following situations. One or both parties seem hesitant to discuss the conflict with you. One or both parties seem to be dealing with a very personal and potentially embarrassing situation. If your attempts to resolve the situation don't seem to be working. If you are biased or have a strong opinion about a person or an issue. If you are feeling fed up with a situation. If you are in conflict with a resident or with another staff member. Or if a large group of people is involved in the conflict. There will always be an ending for a conflict mediation. Once the residents have arrived at a resolution, it's imperative to get the agreement in writing. But before that, be certain that all the bases are covered regarding details and feasibility. Ask if everything seems realistic. Ask what will happen if an agreed upon term is not met or an obligation goes unfulfilled. Once all of the details have been settled, write down the agreement. Make certain that each resident has things to do in the agreement. Each disputant should have a copy to take with them and refer to as necessary. Always remember to follow up. It is always a good idea to check back with the disputants in a week or so to ensure that the mediated solution is being followed and working. If they have moved away from the agreed upon course of action, you may need to help the disputants to recommit to their initial agreement, or you may use the current situation to do a secondary mediation, and which will allow them to outline additional solutions. With some formal mediation training and practice, and these tips in mind, you can be well on your way to helping your residents resolve their conflicts in a healthy and positive fashion. We are almost done. Yay! To complete this module, please complete the Conflict Mediation Assessment in the Blackboard folder. Thank you all so much. Bye, Bears.